Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about a certain demographic in the United States of America who seems to be fed up with the Democrats. The Democrats seem to think they own this group of people, and that's kind of fitting since they are the descendants and the ones who fought to keep them as ownership and property way back in the Civil War. They even created a group of white-clad people that would try and stop them from growing up and voting and doing all kinds of stuff. So it makes sense that now in the present, Democrats think that they have these guys as their sorts of indentured servants. I'm, of course, talking about Black Americans, but more specifically, Black female Americans who are more likely to be conservative each and every day. We've seen it happen a number of times. I follow a number of Black female conservative influencers and Twitter accounts and people on YouTube. Most famously, one that's come up recently was Candace Owens. Candace Owens is a great voice for our movement. She's done a lot of great work. She makes content for the internet, posts all kinds of viral videos all the time, and in general is just a pretty badass character. She supports Trump. She supports, freedom, anti-racism. She's spoken out for all the right causes. And today we're talking about a video she shared that also features another similar two females in the video. So here's the tweet in question. It says, "How did Black Lives Matter become about LGBTQ when blacks really aren't about that? We're conservative. We don't support abortion. We're not about feminism. I'm not voting for Joe Biden." So right out the gate, some really strong messages, an interesting quote from a video that's attached to this. Now, we're going to get to this video soon, but first of all, let's set some groundwork here. Let's lay it out because I think you guys are going to like what you see. It's a really impassioned Black lady and her friend, another Black lady, and they appear to be speaking to some white liberals. I think this is at one of the demonstrations, one of many across the country. And you could see that something's definitely going on. These people are all masked up and kind of geared up for going out and checking out what's going on. You can see some graffiti in the background. And I think by my gist of it, it seems like these chicks are wearing red because they support Trump. They're MAGA people, and they're coming out there trying to set the record straight. You can tell by the way she starts speaking. She's trying to say how she really feels and how she believes her group is properly represented. Now, that's because she's been misrepresented, and a lot of people think they can speak for these Black people. I don't want to be one of those people. I think I just like to respond and hear their quotes. But a lot of others, biased liberals, the mainstream media, they try to coddle them and say, "Oh no, you mean this." And then we've even seen the vice president and the presidential candidate for the Democrats say, "If you don't vote for Democrats, you ain't Black." And that's the kind of response and the kind of thing that's just totally terrible. And it shows that these guys aren't being respected by the liberals like they claim. The liberals act like they're these kinds of heroes saving them, and really they're treating them like children, and they're not listening either. They're trying to push beliefs on them instead of listening to what they actually have to say. So with that said, let's actually do the right thing and listen to them and see how this video goes.
Be in the same position you're in, so I'm not even mad at you, baby, for feeling like fake news. This is the thing. I know people don't like Trump. I understand that. But let me tell you something. If I had to pick between him and Joe Biden, I'm not voting in Joe Biden. You want to see a bunch of Black people go to jail by the next 4 years? Put Joe Biden in. Watch what happens. You want to see Black men get killed substantially, like you've never seen before? Put Joe Biden in. And watch.
All right, we already got a Trump endorsement and a bashing of Joe Biden. I got to say, I'm already on board, and I can see where she's saying. Now, there's not a lot of specifics here. She's speaking off the cuff and talking to people, but she's saying she won't vote for Joe Biden, and if you do, and if he becomes president, more Black people are going to go to jail. And this totally makes sense. I mean, if you think about the actual facts, Joe Biden's been in government for 40, 50 years, and nothing has changed. I don't know why he thinks he could do better now, why he thinks he can help them now, and apparently they're doing bad. And a lot of the policies he's enacted and the laws he's passed and voted for have caused them to get arrested more and to have worse situations, and just he's not helping their community. He's not really there. And he's the one, again, we mentioned the quote already. He says, "If you don't vote for Joe Biden, you ain't Black." And that's just something that just a desperate person would say who is really trying to get this vote. I think the liberals are realizing they're losing the Black vote each and every day. So that's why we see desperate moves like that. And that's also why we're seeing strong, proud, wonderful, beautiful women like this speaking out and calling it out and saying, "Oh, I might not like Trump. I know people hate Trump and you have this or that against him, but he's no Joe Biden. Joe Biden is far worse.
Watch what happens. These Democrats, and I'm sorry to say this, I'm not trying to be racist, but they hate black people. These are the same people who fought to keep slavery in. These are the same people who built the KKK. These are the same people who hated us from the beginning. The Republican Party is the party of the blacks. Blacks free, the Republican Party is the only party that the black people actually assisted in finding. But all of that history has been torn away. People say, oh, there was this big switch. There was never a big switch.
Ooh, God, another truth bomb. I love it. Another truth bomb. There was never a switch. This is a great point and something we have to say all the time in public. People always try to defend this history of the liberals being the racist. They're always been against black people. They were the ones that fought to keep slavery. They were the ones that formed that white-clad group that oppressed blacks for many years. They are the real racist. And this whole point is very, very damning. And that's why they've come up with this big lie. And kind of like how they say, the bigger the lie, the more people will believe it. And the whole thing about them switching is a huge misnomer. It's not true. There was no party switch. I think that's referencing like maybe there was one representative who switched parties like 100 years ago, and they tried to act like it was this big movement and both the parties totally, completely flopped. But that never happened. It was not true. It's highly, highly exaggerated and inflated just to kind of as a way to make Democrats try and hide their past. They're very racist. You know, they're not against this stuff that they claim. They are actually for subjugating this group of people. They think these people are their property. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I don't want to get too crass and too kind of whatever offensive using these dicey words, but that's the way it is. And then that's the way it's always been. And that's why these people are waking up and speaking out. And it really makes a lot of sense, too, because you think about it, she also supports the Republicans. Like the Republican Party was founded by Abraham Lincoln. It was founded by the Civil War, ending slavery was where the Republican Party was created. So it was born to be a party for African Americans, for all Americans, for everyone that believes in freedom, conservatism, you know, stopping this kind of oppression, this kind of mistreatment of different peoples. And the liberals are actually against that. And their trick is they try to pretend they have these fancy names for their groups like Black Lives Matter or anti-fascism, but really they're not for that. Their names are just kind of deceiving because they have bad ulterior motives.
The union won because we had grown in the industrial era. So we were able to get trains and get supplies back to our soldiers while the Confederate was still riding horses. They were not able to get supplies back fast enough, right? So what happened was once slavery was abolished in the South, the people in the South could no longer make their money from slaves. They had to move to the North to work in the industry to produce. And so the people in the North that already had established themselves in the industry moved to the South. And so that's where it was a transfer of people coming from the South to the North and people coming from the North to the South. There was never a big switch.
Okay, so now she's explaining more of the supposed switch, and this actually makes sense too because, like she said, the Southern people had started, their industry was falling apart because they lost their labor source, so they moved to the big cities, and that's when the Democrats kind of started to take over the big cities, and then also, in addition, the Republicans moved to the South to try to start a new business and to modernize it there, build trains and roads and all that stuff. So that's when there was kind of a shift of people, but it doesn't mean that the ideology swapped in the parties. Like the parties were still the same. They just moved, and the Southern Democrats moved to the cities, and then the city folk and the city Republicans and the people in the North, they moved to some parts of the South. It makes a lot of sense, and it makes a ton more sense than this whole fake switch narrative that the liberals always push.
So the same Democrats who hated black people from the beginning are the same ones who hate us now. And they use our cause. How did Black Lives Matter turn into something about LGBTQ? When blacks really don't support that. We're conservative. We're really not about that. Not only that, we don't support abortion. We're about working. This is the black culture. We ain't ever been about that. Not only that, we're not about feminism.
Wow, she's bumping down all of this BS. I mean, it's crazy because it's like, what does BLM have to do with this alphabet cause? Like, how is that even connected? I think that's shown throughout history that a lot of black people, they aren't about this alphabet stuff. They aren't like necessarily negative or very offensive or like whatever, like gay or transphobic, like nothing like that. It's just there's a difference between like being okay with something and also like being an activist for something. And also the liberals have gone way past activism where they're like pushing the alphabet stuff onto everyone. They push it into all the media and into classrooms and into schools and colleges. Like they're pushing that stuff, and that's a whole other level. And yes, this woman is making a lot of sense, and she's speaking with a lot of passion, a lot of intelligence. Like she's got a lot of points, and she's getting them all out there. And she's talking about how these other groups have co-opted the BLM, the Black People's Cause. Like, yeah, if you want to help Black people, we can understand that. I think everyone could get behind that. But I think the point of the matter is it's not really about that anymore. First of all, I don't think the Democrats really want to help them at all. They're just trying to jump in and race bait, and they know if they call white people racist, they can get all this stuff going on, and then they throw in their alphabet causes, and then they throw in their feminist causes, and it just becomes a big mess. It's like a muddled mess. And like she's saying, what's the connection? Like, why is that connected? Like, why is race connected with this sexuality movement? And then there's this girl movement that's going in on it too. And as she just said herself, like, we're not putting words in her mouth. We're not assuming what Black people think and want, like how the liberals would. We're listening. We're actually caring, and we want to help them, and we want to support the ones like this that are trying to help and do good things and not trying to just attack everyone else and blame everyone else. Like these people obviously seem like they're self-sufficient and they're, she's got a job and a family and whatever. Like they're not trying to like leech onto everything else like these other negative groups.
Black women marry their husbands and respect their husbands. That's what we on. We're not on this, I do what I want. We don't do that. That's not our community, and you would understand. I know you understand what I'm saying. We don't do that. But yet these people are hijacking our movement, and the Democratic Party, they're trying to hijack our stuff. No.
All right. Well put, well said. A lot of great points in there, and I think you guys are along for the ride too. These people are being brave. I think these are kinds of heroes because it really is hard in this day and age for these kinds of groups to speak out. Like Black people are very much expected to be liberal, and they're expected to kind of vote with Democrats, follow that party line. We've seen it time and time again. Even the top Democrat right now, Joe Biden, says you're not Black if you don't vote for Democrats. And we've seen it in the media. I've covered shows and TVs and movies about it. We saw that Blackish show saying, I'm Black and I vote Democrat. That happened just like a couple years ago. It's very clear, the message. And that's why it takes a lot of courage and a lot of effort for these kinds of women to speak up. I respect them. I'm really glad to hear all these thoughts. And it's glad to hear like a confirmation once in a while. Maybe some would call it confirmation bias, but I don't think so. I mean, this is rare. You don't get to see this very often. Like I was saying in the intro, like Candace Owens is one of the few greats out there that falls into this category. And now we have these chicks. A couple others I can think of is that Diamond and Silk group. They're great. They have a lot of good content, but these guys are few and far between. But thankfully they are growing and they're getting support, and people are realizing that they want to step away from liberals because they're just the worst. They're very racist, very biased, identity focused, and they're not really kind of helping the people they claim. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts and everything below. Also hit that like button to get things shared, and until next time, you guys have a good one.